G'day guys, Dan Barret here from Big Smoke BBQ and Four Monkeys. Now I know we're supposed to be up north at the moment at the SunPork Cook-Off up at Kingaroy, but unfortunately we can't be at BaconFest. So today I thought I'd give you guys a bit of a masterclass on how to do some pork back ribs. Now hopefully you can do these at home or you can do them at competitions. I've done them at both and I've had great success at both. So let's get started, shall we? Now normally I would have to do a little bit of trimming on these, but straight out of the packet these SunPork back ribs have been trimmed pretty well, so there's not a lot we've got to do to them. These white bits here, these heavy bits of fat, probably just try and knock a little bit of those off, because we don't want anyone, whether it's the judges or the kids, eating a big clump of fat. So we'll knock them off, like so. Being very careful not to go too deep and hitting the bones, because that's we don't want that. That'll be classed as a shiner and it's going to be very unattractive. If you flip around the other side, you got the loin muscle down here that runs down here. Normally that's really thick and heavy, but as I said, this is it's been trimmed up pretty well straight out of the packet, so there's not a lot we need to do to it. In fact, I'd probably just keep that how it is. I'm not even going to touch that. Maybe just a little bit more off of this heavy fat, being very careful. Slow and steady, there's no need to rush it. Just like so. Alright, now we've got them trimmed up, they're pretty much ready to wrap. Nope. And then if you flip them over, again, usually there's a membrane on this underside here on the bones, and what you would do is you'd get your knife and just sort of pick it up, get a bit of paper towel and rip that membrane off from under the underside. Alright, so I'm going to hit them with some rub now. Use your favourite rubs. I'm going to hit them with a couple of different rubs today. One of them being Loot and Booty Everything rub, and the other one being the Four Monkeys Pork rub. I've used these combos a lot during competition and at home, and everyone seems to love it, so we're going to do that today. As usual, we're going to start by rubbing the underside first. And the reason we do that is because the top side is the side that that's your presentation side, so you don't want that with any smear marks on it. So if we rub the top side first, then flip it over to rub the underside, it'll end up, all the rubber gets smished under there and it'll look horrible. So we want the side that we're going to present to be the last side that we apply the rub to. So the white coating of the Everything rub, and then going over the top with the white coat of the Four Monkeys Pork rub. Put them over like that. And again, just like from a distance, I find you get a nice even coating that comes from a height rather than right down here like that, like so. Like that, let that sit. And the Four Monkeys Pork on top. Just like so. Right, now we're going to let them sit for about 20 minutes. At the moment you can see it looks all dry, obviously we've just applied the rub. So we're going to let it sit for about 20 minutes and let that rub really sink in and adhere to the meat. And once it gets that look of a wet texture to it, then we know they're ready to go on the pit. So now's a good time to fire up the pit and let these sit, and we'll be back very soon. Alright guys, we're back here now. We've got the pit set to 275 degrees Fahrenheit, which is roughly around 135 degrees Celsius. You don't have to use a pellet grill. I'm using the GMG today, but you can do this in a drum. You can do these in a Weber kettle, or you can do them even in the oven. As long as it's set for those temperatures and you follow these simple guidelines, then you shouldn't have a problem. So I've got these ribs been sitting here for about 20 minutes now. I don't know whether you can see that, but they're looking really wet now, so that means that the rub has adhered to the ribs really well and they're ready to go on the pit. So, chuck them on like so. We're going to let them go for about an hour and a half roughly, unwrapped, and then we're going to wrap them. But we're only going to wrap them when we're happy with the colour, when the bark is set. So we're not going to go by time. It's going to be roughly around an hour and a half, but it will come down to how they look. And we'll check back in when that time's ready. Thanks guys. Alright guys, it's been about an hour and 15 minutes now. I've just taken the baby back pork ribs off because I'm really happy with the colour and how they're turning out. So as you can tell, they've just started to turn that nice mahogany colour. You don't want them to get too dark, but the rub is definitely set on there. A good way to test it is just to scratch it with your finger. If nothing comes off, then you know it's set. So now it's time to wrap these pork ribs. So what I like to do is put down a layer of butter. Sprinkle some brown sugar down there as well. And some agave nectar, which I substitute instead of honey, but you can use honey as well. I've used honey plenty of times if you're having trouble finding this stuff. They both work really good. But there's something about this agave nectar that just everyone seems to love. So flip them over. So you got the meat side sitting down in all the juices. Put some more butter on top. Pretty much just repeat the same process. Just like so. You can tell I don't know whether you can see it, the camera's picking it up, but the bones are starting to peel back already and expose those bones, so they're coming along nicely. Get some more brown sugar. And what this is going to do is just steam the ribs, keep all that moisture in there to finish them off. Again, some more agave nectar over the top. It's gonna leave a sweet nectar liquid once we unwrap them at the end, which is going to be sensational. Alright guys, that's exactly where I want it to be right now. I'll take these gloves off and strap these up. It's really important too to get heavy duty foil. If you get the cheap Kmart, so the cheap Woolworth stuff or whatever, it tends to tear, and what's really important is you don't want to pierce this foil. You want to keep all that liquid in there. One tiny little nick and you're going to lose all that juice, and they're probably going to dry out and burn them. So some nice heavy duty stuff. Costco has some good stuff. If you can't get to Costco, I know Bunnings has a pretty thick brand in there as well. So, and we just wrap them over. Like so. I like to double wrap to be safe. Just like that. We're going to pop those back onto the pit or back into the oven if you're cooking at home. It's probably going to be about another hour or so, but this time we're going to check for tenderness. So we've checked for colour, we've wrapped them when we're happy with the colour, now they're done when they're tender. So until that happens, leave them on there. Let's get back to it. Alright guys, now the ribs are resting, it's a great time to whip up some sauce. Obviously if you're on site and you're at a competition, you can't do this on the stove, so maybe you can put a pot on top of your pit, heat it up that way. But what I've got is half a cup of Blues Hog original barbecue sauce, half a cup of Luton Booty original competition barbecue sauce, fantastic sauce that one, quarter of a cup of Rib Candy Peachy Peach Habanero for that little bit of kick on the back end. I've also put a knob of butter in there. And the last thing I'm going to add is just a little splash of apricot nectar of this stuff. Now we're going to get the stove on. We only want to cook this and heat it up until the butter is melted. We don't want it to bubble or boil. You just want to literally heat it up, thin it out a little bit and melt that butter, and then that sauce is ready to go. Alright guys, I've just pulled these ribs off. They've been on for about another hour and 15 minutes, and I pulled them off because they're exactly where I want them to be. They're really tender. I want to open them up here so we can have a look. You see the bones are pulled back nicely, and if we flip them over, look at that. Absolutely magnificent. They've got a nice bend and flex to them, and they're probing really soft. Now those, if you do follow temps, these probe at around 205 degrees Fahrenheit, but they can vary a bit to 200 to 210 depending on how quick they cook and how thick they are and everything. But most importantly, you can see they're probing really soft all over, so I know that these guys are tender. Now I've got our sauce here that we've just made up on the stove. And what we're going to do is, we're going to fold up the sides of these foil boat here. Like so. I'm going to get a sauce and I'm just going to pour some over the top. Notice how it's not really thick. That's because we've heated it up. Then we can just get a brush and just evenly brush the sauce over the ribs. Now this is going to go back into the pit for about another 15-20 minutes until this sauce is all set. Magnificent. Right, so now the ribs have been sauced. We're going to put them back in the pit, as I said, for another 15 minutes till the sauce is set, and then these guys are ready to eat in. So let's do that. Alright guys, these ribs are done. They've been on for another 10-15 minutes. The sauce is set, it's exactly where I want it to be. It's looking great. I just want to recap. We trimmed them, we rubbed them, we cooked them at 275 until we were happy with the colour. It was about an hour and 15 minutes. We then wrapped them with brown sugar, nectar and butter. They went back into the pit for another hour and 15, another hour and a half until they were tender. We sauced them for another 15 minutes and now we're here. I just want to say guys, thanks for watching the video. Kingaroy BaconFest 2021 is going to be huge. If you didn't get a chance to go there last year, get up there next year. It's a great comp, it's a great festival, great people, and yeah, I'll be there. Let's get stuck into these, more importantly. They're just looking, I don't even want to cut these up, they're looking that good. But we'll flip them over. I'll flip them over only so I can see the bones, so I get some nice straight even cuts. These are going through super soft. They're really tender. The judges are going to love it. The kids are going to love it. Just stop there for a minute and have a look at that. I don't know whether you can pick it up on the camera or not, but it is super juicy. Let's have a look. Oh! Ooh! Clean bite through every single time. Just follow those steps. Cook the colour, cook the tenderness, sauce, done. There's no need to do 3-2-1 methods or anything like that. This works every time, I guarantee it. Thanks for tuning in guys.